Hello, welcome back to Just Opinion Media Review, and today's media is going to be The Substance. The plot is Elizabeth, the main character. She's I think like they don't really explain it. She just looks like a workout instructor, like those old 90s to early 2000s, and hands up and hands down and hands up, stuff like that. And we see that she's in her 50s, I believe, and the producer comes up and says, "Hey," in a kind of comedic way, says, "Yeah, we're replacing you because we need somebody younger." So she's like all depressed. She gets in a car accident at the hospital. This male nurse is like, "Oh, her spine's perfect," and he hands her a USB drive that has a number on it, and she calls it, and it's like, "Oh," or it's a video that shows like, "Oh, we can make your perfect self," but you have to, you two are one, and she kind of throws it away like, "Yeah, fuck this," but then she's like, "No, I'm gonna do it." So she calls the number, she gets the supplements, and then she injects herself, and then her new body appears, and it comes right out of her spine. They never explain how the hell you're able to grow a human body in another body, and then how the other body's able to heal. But her alter ego comes out, and the video in the movie keep replacing "you two are one," so you have to help each other out. So she, the alter ego is named Sue, and she gives it's a 7-day supply, so you can only be the alter ego for 7 days. And then so she gives Elizabeth the nutrients, and then she goes back to where she got fired, and she's like, "Oh, who are you?" And like, "Oh, I'm Sue." And they're like, "Oh my God, you're hired." And she's like, "Oh, I can only do this for 7 days because I have a sick aunt or a sick mom back in the Midwest." So now Sue's career's taken off, and then we flip back to Elizabeth. She's just still miserable, and we continue to keep flipping back and forth. And then as Sue gets more popular, she's like, "Oh, I need more time." So she takes some of the nutrients out of Elizabeth and puts it in her, because she's like she's about to have sex with this guy, and then she starts getting a nosebleed, and she's like, it won't hurt. And then Elizabeth wakes up, and her finger is like aged, aged a lot, and she calls the number of the on the USB, and he's like, "No, you two are one. There's no going back. What happened has happened." So we progress more. Elizabeth is like eating a lot more junk food and not socializing, and Sue is becoming outgoing and becoming more famous, making magazines and all these things. And her show is taking off. They went from I think they said 40,000 viewers to like 200,000 or something like that. But then Sue has this incident where, and I don't know if it's a dream or if it's happened, but she ends up, she bends down. She's doing her shoot. She bends down, and she's like, somebody pops, and she ends up pulling out a chicken bone out of her stomach. And when then she wakes up because it's a blood transfer. So I don't know exactly how this, and I'll get to the end. I'll get after the plot. So she sees that Sue had made like a bunch of food, and she's like, you gotta stop doing this. So she ends up just taking over. She just she does like 3 months of just continually just feeding Elizabeth, but then also taking that food out of her back. And then eventually it comes to the point where everything now that she's pulling out of Elizabeth is now toxic, and she calls the number on the phone, and the guy's like, nope, you have to switch. And so she switches, and then Elizabeth wakes up, and she's like it's old lady now. And she's like, what the fuck? And she's like, I'm going to terminate this process. So she gets a termination thing, and she goes and inject Sue with it, and then Elizabeth like has this realization. She's like, wait a minute, no, you're my better self. I shouldn't do this. So somehow they do the blood transfer, and somehow they both wake up, and then Sue sees that Elizabeth gave her the termination, and so there's no dialogue. There's no like, hey, yeah, I messed up, or hey, what's going on? It's Sue beats the living hell out of Elizabeth, and just ends up killing her. So then now that it's just Sue, she goes to the New Year's Eve. They're doing some New Year's Eve event, and she ends up like, she's having these attacks. Like, hey, you're not mentally stable, and she's like pulling her teeth out, and she's like, oh no. So she remembers that she has this whatever it gives you to be able to swap. She goes and takes it, and so then another body forms, and now this one's mutated. It's like Sue and Elizabeth combined. It's called I think it's called Monstrous Sue, which is pretty funny. And so then she goes back to the ball, and she's like, it's me, Sue. And because she's wearing Elizabeth's face mask, like not her actual face, like it's like a picture, and she just like glued it to her face, and it falls off. Like, oh my god, it's a monster. And some guy just goes up and like smashes her head, and then her head regenerates, and then she starts spraying the whole room with blood, and then she ends up like running away. She falls, explodes, and then it's Elizabeth's head is coming off the monster, and it lays right on top of her star, and then she's like, oh, I made it, and then she dies. So now that that's done, this movie was pretty fun. It's a body horror movie, so there's like a lot of stuff, like she pulls her fingernail off. That was the only time I had to look away. The chicken bone, I've seen it in previous clips, so like that coming out of the stomach, I was like kind of like squinting. But yeah, the guy who sells her stuff, we never know who that guy is. We never know if he's in the government, or if he's a rogue scientist. But he said, whenever Sue or Elizabeth calls him, she goes, oh, this is Sue, or this is Elizabeth, and he doesn't talk, and she like, okay, it's 503, and he's like, yes. So I don't quite know like what his angles is, but he specifically says you and her are one. And I'll get back to the transfer. It's like, okay, obviously it seems like those two aren't the same, from what I gathered, because it's like Sue will eat all this. She eats like a bunch of starch and like fried chicken, stuff like that, because when she wakes up, or when Sue wakes up, like the house is full of just bones and stuff of chicken and potatoes, and she's like, what the fuck, and but it's like all they do is transfer back blood. So it's like, are they connected? Because I don't think either one of them not remember, but they don't act on what they do. And it's like, okay, so when she pulled the chicken bone out of her stomach, was that just because when it happened she like woke up? So it was like after the transfer. but like, it's like, okay, well, it shouldn't be affecting you. But I don't know. That was kind of weird part of the movie. It's like, okay, well, are you guys connected, or are you two really the same person? Because like, you would think, because in the movie it says it'll make a better self of you, and you know, I would think that people are like, oh, you look like a younger Sue, you know, or not younger Sue, a younger Elizabeth when Sue went to the thing, but no, I don't know. It's definitely, the movie was definitely set up to be kind of I don't want to say comedic, but it was more like, we're gonna play it off for laughs. Like when she became a monster, or like when she was walking the hall, I couldn't tell if like if people were like actually there like clapping like, oh, welcome back, nobody will replace you. But then like she walks down the hall and there's like nobody, so I don't know if that was like she's just envisioning it. And it's kind of funny because she comes back, she's wearing so Elizabeth has a giant poster of herself, and the monster ends up cutting the poster out and taping it to her face. And she goes back to the New Year's ball thing, and the guy's like, oh, you're finally back. And it's like, how can you not tell that that's not the right person? I don't know. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting movie, and I'm still curious to see if the two counterparts, the two bodies, if they actually work together, how long they would live. Because the male nurse who gave her the stuff, he finds her, his other self, his original self. He's like an old man. He's like, yeah, you know, you get lonely. And it's like, okay, well, why don't you fucking explain that? Like, why would you give it? Why would you give that to her if you knew that it's lonely on the other side of not being able to go out or something? I don't know. It was definitely just. I personally, I'm not afraid of old age. You know, everybody's gonna go through old age. So to me, it's like, yeah, okay. They obviously want a younger, more attractive person. So it's like, you know, you just have to understand that you were that person at one time, and now you're not that person anymore. So like, just, you know, kind of move on, find something else. You know, do YouTube. You know, do Twitch, do something. I mean, like, I find it interesting, the like porn stars who you know, kind of get to that age, start doing like Twitch. Like, I think Adriana Chechnik, I don't know if I'm gonna say her name right. I've never like said it out loud, but like she went from being like kind of porn star, still doing porn, I believe, to kind of just doing Twitch. And I think she built up an audience on there. And so, like, you know, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, just move on. And so, like, I wouldn't have never have done this. And I think if I were to have done it, I would communicate with my other self saying, hey, that's not cool taking an extra day, you know, from me. Because now look at my hand. Oh, the other thing in this movie, they live in an apartment. And Sue is like tired looking at her old self, so she ends up demolishing the bathroom wall, and she somehow by herself builds a trap door where she can put Elizabeth and Sue can swap, and nobody's gonna know. But like, she busts on the wall, and there's this whole other room. It's like, okay, where the hell did this room come from? And you know, it's got like, I don't know if it's got carpet or something, but the way it looked like there was carpet and everything in there. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a recommend. So I hope you guys enjoyed this rambling of the substance. Just again, when you get older, you know, that's life. Just accept it. You know, find another hobby, and you know, don't worry about, you know, what people think of you, because we're all gonna be in the grave eventually. We're all gonna share that one experience of dying. Except there will be one person who probably will have immortality. But it's probably not gonna be you, and it sure as hell ain't gonna be me. So, alright guys. Talk to you later.